As a neurospicy baddie, I was under the impression until a few days ago that I don't have the time blindness thing. Only I was reminded by my boyfriend that I'm always late. And I know that I'm either always late or always like an hour and a half early. I say all that to say I'm running late. So this video might be a little speedily recorded. Excuse me. Hi, it's Kendall here. If you're new around here, welcome. Not new around here, what is up, home skillet biscuit? And I love garbage. We know this. I think garbage is one of the things that make the world go round and makes this strange, obscene, and outrageous, absurd world we live in a little less terrible. And one of the places I can go is PASSIONFLIX. For those of you that are familiar with my channel, you're very well aware of PASSIONFLIX, but if you are new, PASSIONFLIX is a streaming service devoted entirely to shitty film adaptations, like awful film adaptations, cheap film adaptations of slightly less shitty romance books. They tend to be focused entirely on white couples, but there is one series, just one so far, that I've noticed that is devoted to the streaming service is owned by Tosca Musk, aka Heil Hitler's brother, and there hasn't been an increase in production, so I'm pretty sure that PASSIONFLIX is in a stronghold of the destruction of American democracy. Instead, it's a shithole that I can visit once every like 4 months and then feel like at least this is here. It's an ugly and terrible thing that I can point at like a Cybertruck. And today we're talking about the end of the GRANGER series. Convoluted piece of shit about the GRANGER brothers, a trio of brothers who run a big tech company that was originally made by their grandfather and are trying to do what they can to get their father out of jail when he was wrongfully incarcerated for the murder of their mother. I talked about the first 2 movies already, and I figured because it is so convoluted, and I've actually done this before with another PASSIONFLIX series, the Gabriel's series, that I would do a compilation episode again. So you don't have to go over to those other videos. You can just watch this as one big cluster. You're welcome. Because simply put, these movies at this point I don't think are interesting enough to watch separately. So here's one big video about it, and I can come at the end and talk to you about the newest movie, A Lover's Vow. Why did I say vowel? It's the end of the series, the final culmination. So if you were on the edge of your seats wondering whatever happened to the Grangers, because I know you were, that's the most important thing you've thought about, honestly, in the last 6 months. I am here to quell that curiosity for you. With that said, this is easily the worst of all the movies, which again, kind of a feat considering they're all progressively bad. I did watch the video prior to this, my video prior to this, to remember kind of what was happening. But girl, the movie's doo-doo. The whole series doo-doo. The whole streaming service is doo-doo. You're welcome. But first, let's send you over to Admiral Kennie. Thank you. Hello everyone, this is Admiral Kennie, and today's video is sponsored by Classy. Classy has taken the struggle and the frustration out of finding the right bra for your outfit. I know, look at it. They make tank tops, long sleeves tops, short sleeve tops, all types of things that have built-in bra support. So you don't have to worry if something's off the shoulder and you have a strap showing because it's built in to the tank, baby. They're really great quality and thickness, the tanks themselves, but also they come in various styles, like thicker band, and then they have camis. I love when they make like an off the shoulder thingy so you don't have to wear an incredibly uncomfortable strapless bra or have your ugly straps showing. And honestly, it's just one less step finding a bra. Also, this color is gorgeous. Can we talk about this like burnt orange situation? Very, very cute. And I find that these fit really well onto the side. My mic was leaving my mouth. Onto the side, so I'm not like leaking out of the side. It's really good support and it looks good. It's smooth. It's not digging in anywhere, so it doesn't make you look lumpy. No uniboob. Like, these are 2 distinct. If you would like to check out Classy, I probably have a QR code around my big old noggin, or you can click on the link down below to get 20% off your first Classy order when you use my code CLASSY948 at checkout. Big thanks again to Classy for sponsoring today's video. Now let's get on to the debauchery. A Brother's Honor from New York Times bestselling author Brenda Jackson. The Granger brothers return to Virginia to save their family business. The eldest brother, Jace, hires Shayna Bradford to untangle the mismanagement of the company. She's the right person for the job and the right woman to turn Jace's world upside down. Together, they discover a conspiracy possibly connected to his father's wrongful imprisonment. That's a very high rating for this shit movie. Oh my god. So as you can imagine, nothing could deter me from the concept of black romance on PASSIONFLIX. But unfortunately, this movie is bad in a way that I'm kind of disappointed about, if that makes sense. It's an hour and 45 minutes of tedium. Despite it being a romance, it's shockingly all over the place, and the romance is kind of shoehorned in because they knew that we would just kind of fade out without it, and I fade out with it as well, which is interesting because there's so many plot points, many of which are introduced and never closed. My theory is that it was supposed to be several movies, like it was supposed to be a series, but as far as I'm aware, they didn't continue it, probably because this movie sucked. But there's a lot of stuff going on and I'm still so bored. There's clearing their father's name of murder, there's taking over this business, there's espionage, there's romance. Somehow it was boring as I don't know how they did that. But I think the thing, maybe even more so than most PASSIONFLIX movies that I find quite deterring from this film is that it's 98% expository dialogue and it's done so poorly. Not even fun to watch alone. I think it would be funny to watch with other people though. So if you just want to bring your friends together to watch some garbage, I highly recommend that. But me just in my bedroom trying to watch it, I got so bored and so easily distracted. And with the movie having so much going on and nothing at all, it actually makes it incredibly hard to follow. And it doesn't help that my dog is also in her teenage phase, so she refuses to let me watch anything in peace. I don't think it matters anyway. The movie's a mess. You combine too much going on, yet not enough, and then you combine it with the most PASSIONFLIXian editing and acting style, but everything's written and performed as if no one on set or behind the scenes, anyone that participated at all, had ever met another human being. Very lizard people type energy. And I hated it. Short and sweet, not to be too passionate about it. Quite frankly, it was so stupid I almost don't want to make a video on it, but took too long to make today's video, so here we are. I'm gonna bestow this upon you. So without further ado, this is A Brother's Honor. 2019. Now, I think it's fair to say that as a black person going into a romance movie that's supposed to be on PASSIONFLIX, I was a little primed to be uncomfortable. I was curious to what degree race plays or doesn't play a particular large role in the film, and ultimately how well they deal with that. For the most part, the movie just doesn't. In many ways, all of the same kind of, tropes that you expect from romance novels like this, the bad boys who are inexplicably rich, dark tortured past, but not too much that it elicits actual trauma, but just enough to make them sexy. I will admit that when it opened and the first thing we see is their father going to jail, that was a little jarring. But no opening sequence, by the way, no title screen, no lead in. It just starts with their father going to jail. I was a little like, oh god, what is this about? But it's basically every other PASSIONFLIX movie ever made, just with black people. It's all the bad acting and lack of chemistry that you've come to expect. So rest assured, none of that will be lacking in this experience, okay? This is darker than I thought it was. Maybe I don't have as much of a tan as I thought I did. We see the three Granger boys in the courtroom as their father is sentenced to prison for killing their mother. That was 15 years ago, and now all of the boys have grown up to be incredibly successful men in their own right. The eldest, Jace, is like a lawyer of some sort, some business professional out in California. The middle child, Caden, is a successful saxophone player out in Vegas, if I'm not mistaken. And the youngest, Dalton, is a secret billionaire that they didn't know had that much money until this movie begins. So that's crazy. How did that happen? Again, it's pretty obvious pretty quickly that this movie was supposed to be one of several. It was supposed to be within a series. But again, as far as I'm aware, they never did that. So this movie introduces 8 billion plot points that they will never resolve. And one of the issues with trying to make a video like this is like, God forbid they do ever resolve it, because who knows what power these bad movies end up being hold. I would hate to have skipped some major plot point before we can return to it if they decide to make another shitty movie and I want to talk about it. It's more confusing to talk about every single plot point. I'm going to be skipping major chunks of this movie because you just don't need to know it. And even the ones that I'll tell you possibly won't even be important. God forbid they make another movie. So with that said, I'm going to skip the comedically antagonistic relationship between Caden and his bandmate / ex-lover, but I don't want to because I want to talk about this clip. This clip is fucking hilarious and I'll never be able to do anything with it because we never finished this story arc in this movie.
We egged that woman on. She was practically stripping for you.
Is that why you were off key?
I mean, you obviously like women who are offbeat. Might as well like them that are tone deaf as well. But tragedy strikes and the brothers' grandfather ends up suffering from a serious heart attack and is hospitalized, which ends up being kind of a catalyst bringing all of the boys back to Virginia. But of the brothers, the youngest, Dalton, actually has a bit more of a complicated relationship with the grandfather. Back when he was younger, he was a bit wild and loose when their mother was murdered and their father went to jail. So much so that the grandfather decided that he shouldn't be able to have access to his inheritance and instead was told that he will have to figure things out on his own. So Dalton has quite a bit of resentment towards their grandfather.
Am I not surprised to find you two goofing off? Dalton. Oh yeah, it's me. Holy shit.
What? He's right there, my guy. How did you miss him? Dalton also has a complicated relationship with the brothers as well, because after their father went to jail, he never visited him in prison, which led the other brothers to believe that Dalton thought that their father was guilty, a belief that the other two brothers don't hold. Instead, he says that the reason why he couldn't go is because it was so hard seeing their father in that context. A man who was so law-abiding that he would never get a parking ticket. He was the most, upright guy ever. Soon the grandfather wakes up and he only has enough energy to give them his dying wish. There's a lot of them, and I feel like he's asking for too much. But he's like, I'm gonna need y'all to save our family business called Granger Aeronautics that is apparently going under, and they didn't even know it was going under. And also prove your father is innocent of murder and get him out of jail. Just casual, not asking for too much, and then he dies. Which I think is very rude. Some of us can't take an everlasting vacation, my guy. You can't do that. Shell off while you work to other people and had a nerve to die. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. I can't find nothing I'm looking for. At the funeral, Caden sees his childhood best friend, a girl who works at their family company. They have a tumultuous history because apparently she stopped talking to him after their father went to prison. But considering that was when they were children, I don't know why there's still animosity. I mean, she works at your family's business. I don't know why I'm asking as if anyone has ever thought of the logistics of any story being told on PASSIONFLIX, but whatever. They're in a very bad space right now. He's actually very furious at her. I'm probably going to skip the scene when it comes up, but basically he tells her that he can't stand the sight of her and blah, blah, blah. So they're not good, okay? The only reason I bring her up is because if they ever get around to a second movie, I feel like she's going to be somewhat important, which I doubt they will. It's been years. But also she has a little bit of significance in a future scene. But now that grandfather is dead, the company is now supposedly going to be owned to the shareholders, and they are looking to put a man at the company named Freeman as the head of the company. But being that that is against grandfather's wishes, the Dalton boys are interested in taking over the company themselves. But though it's the wish of their grandfather, it's not really in alignment with the shareholders. They believe they don't have enough experience, which is correct. Also, the company is going under. It hasn't been doing well for a while. One of their workers, he suggests that they call up a woman named Shayna Bradford, who specializes in getting companies out of the red and back into being profitable. And they decide to hire her to come along. So they use that as a bit of leverage on what things they plan to do to help the company. And then they take a vote with the shareholders, which ends in a tie, with the only person as a tiebreaker being the childhood friend that Kaden is not on good terms with. And she decides to do the finishing vote to give the company over to the Grangers. So the Granger brothers are now heads of the company. Hooray. I don't know when they'll have time to do their other work, but okay, I guess they're just sacrificing everything to do this now. Again, that was very rude of you to leave all that to us and then die. That's how I feel about it. Selfish mother. But I'm unreasonable, so now that they're the head of the company, they're now gonna contact that Shayna Bradford woman to come in to see, what they need to do to get, back in good standing. To be honest with you, I don't know what her job is. They just say this woman helps companies. What she does is she does some doobity bobbity boobity boo. She has an interesting mixture of abilities. At some point, she's kind of like an internal spy or a private investigator, research person. Sometimes she's just like an economist. I don't know what she does, but she fixes it. Whatever the problem is, she gonna do it. So okay, very good at her job. She's very revered for it. The only problem is that she's hot, and this is a PASSIONFLIX movie, so you can't just let the woman be hot. She has to also be in some stupid trite romance with people that she has no chemistry with. What else makes a PASSIONFLIX movie? But I'm getting a bit ahead of myself. So they get Miss Bradford, have a lunch meeting with her. This is, of course, the movie's chance to clumsily drop large amounts of expository dialogue.
Graduated top of your class at UCLA. Your brother Kaden is a musical genius who has quite the following. And your brother Dalton is known in the European circuit as the ladies' man.
Admittedly, this entire movie is that it's just people talking and doing nothing, and which movie 101. Don't do that, but okay. This is also where they take the opportunity to shoehorn poorly placed quote-unquote sexual tension. I don't want to say more than any other PASSIONFLIX movie, but notably upper average of it. Takes no chance, no time, no effort at all to try to put them really in any situation that would even suggest that these two people are attracted to each other than just going from zero to sex. And I guess we get it at that point that they might want to bone if they're literally inside each other. But he suggests that she comes to the office and kind of does her work out of the office because this is a PASSIONFLIX movie. This, of course, is just going to give her the literal proximity to him in order to, again, shoehorn some form of romantic relationship, because there is not one. Speaking of shoehorning sexual tension, she comes to the office and she's talking to him and he barely hears her because he's too attracted to her. And then she says, "We must discuss something. A matter of your libido and my hormones." That is a quote. That is not me being facetious. That is a quote. That he's incredibly attracted to her and that he is going to be distracted from his work if he does not focus on the job. We are here in a professional setting. Pack up your penis. Let me do my job. But yes, all of this is to explicitly create a professional boundary. I am here to work. Leave me alone. I see that you're attracted to me. Now, again, this is PASSIONFLIX, so that was a waste of our time. We didn't even need to do this. But I will say, even for PASSIONFLIX, they didn't even allow that tension to even sit. Like we shouldn't be doing this. They literally, pretty much in the next scene with them together, they make out in the elevator. And also, again, it's right after she said, "We will not be doing anything," and he just goes and kisses her, like, the next scene. So it's like, did you listen to the words she said? It's hard to determine what their relationship is as far as like the work dynamic. She refers to him as a client. So theoretically, she could just drop him as a client at any point. but also he's paying her. So does that make him her boss? I don't know what the power dynamic is there, but regardless of the power dynamic, it's unprofessional. And she said no right before this. So I'm very annoyed. But after they make out in the elevator, she's like, we can never do this again. This must be a purely professional relationship. But Caden's like, you should bring the new girl to have drinks with us at their go-to place after work. He invites her. She says yes. And while there, she's chatting with Caden, the middle brother. And it looks like Jace is a little, jealous of the interaction. Caden asks if she has a date this weekend, and she says yes. And they show Jace, and he's like, that's my man sound. Free fight, full fun. Again, this is supposed to be another moment of grating sexual tension, but you could have fooled me. The brothers visit their father in prison for the first time in a very long time, possibly the first time for the youngest ever, because again, he didn't have a great relationship after the trial. They reminisce about the family, about the company, and talk about how the only people that the boys should be able to trust right now is each other, because in the world of business, there are no allies and all that. As if on cue, again, I don't know what her job is. I thought she was like an economist, but she's also like a private investigator or something. But she comes in with information in regards to there being evidence that their trade secrets in the company are being leaked to competitors. Soon after this, it seems as though they've been talking about the business too much, so they have to again shoehorn more romance. So after everyone leaves, Jace asks her how long he will be her client, meaning presumably, how long must he hold off his obvious attraction to her in the name of propriety? Say you didn't feel anything the last time we kissed. Say we didn't feel anything. I didn't. Which means theoretically we should stop having this conversation. But he was like, well, maybe you'll feel something next. Why do you ask for my consent if you don't give a I get some people have role play things and that's none of my business. I was about to say I don't kink shame, but that's a lie. I do. I don't believe in a world with no kink shame. And some of y'all are gross. That's just how I feel. At the end of the day, people gonna get pissed on because they want to. Nothing I say will stop them. So me saying that's crazy ain't stopping people from doing race play. So I'm gonna say what I gotta say. Y'all not gonna silence me. Can't even say things anymore. Liberal media. I'm sorry. Anyway, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, in The Office. As far as movie sex goes, I give it like a 1 out of 10. Real stiff, icy hips. Maybe do some mobility exercises. You know that I'm known for the bob. But afterwards, she's like, we've crossed the line. I got to refer you to another firm. Like, we can't do this. And he's like, why? Why? He's like, no, I need you. No. She's like, I can't do this. I'll tell you how I feel on Monday, whatever. But of course, if we've noticed anything about this dude, he doesn't let her do anything without him popping up somewhere in her face, at her place, apparently. Bars. So he comes to her house after work. If we weren't working together, would you be fighting this thing that is between us? As if we as the audience haven't seen the movie. So I'm sitting here like, sir, what are you referring to? All I've seen is you explicitly ignoring everything I've said to you, and now suddenly you're in my face, you say you love me, you're in my place, and I'm like, I'm just trying to make a check, sir. I'm just trying to make a pence. And she's like, well, in fairness, no, if I weren't a professional, then I wouldn't be doing this, but I am, so we are. I don't want to nullify my professional relationship with you. I'm trying to do my job. And he's like, well, why don't we just work like we always work? And then after hours, we can know each other biblically, which as a side note, there is no distinction between that. But eventually he browbeats her into agreeing to that. And then again, yay, love. Doesn't feel like a consensual relationship to me, but I guess in the world of PASSIONFLIX, it's just her fighting the feeling. Don't tell me. God, why do I have a song for every sentence? Just show me. Cause if you say you love me, then you touch me. Your body should say so. And make it scream. Oh. Don't ever fight the feeling when you feel it. Don't tell me, show me, show me. If you say you love me when you touch me, your body should say so. Ever fight the feeling when you feel it, you already know. But in the world of PASSIONFLIX, dick is worth it. Not in my world, though. Later in the office, she discovers a bug in a pin on her desk that apparently had been recording the room, and they were lucky that it was placed that morning and thus had not recorded their illicit affair. But she has a cybersecurity team that starts to look around for who may possibly be bugging this establishment and trying to block it before any more information from the company gets leaked to competitors. And apparently the suspect is someone that works at the company. So it could literally be anybody that works at the company. Now, I've been skipping a lot of scenes that there's no point of talking about, and I almost considered skipping this one too. But again, if in some way I've unfortunately resulted in a sequel of this movie coming out, I feel like I should lay some foundation here. One of the brothers, the youngest Dalton, ends up meeting Shayna's sister, who is an investigator in her own right. And while she was out staking out a perp or something at a bar with her titties in her throat, good dress, girl, that's a good bra. Somebody give me recommendations, all right? My titty be leaking out. I have too much titty for certain bras, but too little titty for others. I should get professionally sized for it, shouldn't I? That would probably help me a lot. But anyway, she ends up meeting Dalton, the youngest brother, and that's the beginning of their kind of rendezvous. She's mysterious. She's like not interested in him, and he's a playboy, and everyone's interested in him. So I guess that makes him, intrigued by her. And that's all you need to know about that. It was poorly done because everything's poorly done in this movie. But this one particularly so because it was a dub over. Good dress though, you look good. Jason and Shayna go away for the weekend. And this is when they finally start to get a bit more vulnerable. He talks about his childhood, his daddy going to jail for killing their mama, but they don't believe that he actually did it. The fallout with Dalton and the family, yada, yada, yada. Being the oldest brother, blah, blah, blah. And then she talks about her past relationship where she found out that her partner that she was seeing for a few months was actually a spy looking for information on her boss because that was one of his biggest competitors or something. I don't know. This is supposedly supposed to be the reason why she has so much hesitation for falling for Jace because, mixing work and pleasure never works out. I hate to break it to you. You didn't need to have that experience to reach that conclusion, but okay. I found it kind of humorous that they gave this as like the reason, as if she needed any explanation for why she didn't want to talk to this man, considering they in some way have a worker-employee relationship. I guess it depends on which direction you're looking at it, whether or not you look at him as the boss or the client. But regardless, they don't care enough to not in the tub with bubble bath. Jesus, what is with like romance movies and putting pussies in compromising situations? Like, I guess it looks good on screen, but every time I see y'all in chlorinated water or bubbles, I'm just sitting there like, oh, she's gonna get out of the bathtub and her shit gonna need an inhaler. Coochie intubation. Sorry. The next day though, they find out that Freeman, the guy that wanted to be the head of the company, has been a part of the whole infiltration of the company, giving information away. And he had been working with Jace's secretary and possibly some other people to do his dirty work. Shayna ends up finding a secret compartment under Jace's father's couch while she was looking for her panties, and ends up finding a compartment that holds evidence that Jace's mother was having an affair with a man named Michael Green to work for their father for years before their father fired him, possibly because of the affair. That took place 2 months before their mother was killed. The evidence was in a letter from Michael Green's wife to them threatening their mother. Jace is like, well, why didn't he bring this up at trial? That could have made him not go to jail. Well, he's like, well, the reason I didn't do it is because A, I didn't want to besmirch the mother of my child's name, especially when it wouldn't strengthen the case against me. Around this part, the movie is even more expository dialogue, and honestly, my eyes started crossing. So pardon me if this is inaccurate, but I'm pretty sure another reason why he didn't want to do it is because he didn't believe his wife was having an affair. So to besmirch her name just to get him off free and she's not here to defend herself, he didn't want to do. Instead, he thinks that the mother was looking in on some secret dealings or whatever, and whatever she was looking into got her killed. They don't explain why she was looking into secret dealings. We don't know if she was also a spy or an investigator or something. Seems like everybody's job is that in this movie, but he got her killed, and he's like, don't look into it, Jace, because we don't know what we're dealing with. Another storyline I've been skipping up until this point is that Jace has an ex-wife, a woman who's kind of cartoonishly written out in all the misogynistic tropes you expect of like the bad, evil woman in a romance novel. She's greedy. She's malicious. Their final falling out was apparently when she aborted their child without telling him. Even though they're divorced and have no children shared between them, she is always coming bumming for money. So she comes into the office, sees the new girl. They do the whole jealous back and forth, boo boo, whatever, boo boo. She goes to Jace, asks for him to pay for her a hotel because she's on the run from people that was trying to kill her. As I'm saying this, I realize this is of no consequence to this movie. I probably should have skipped it. But again, who knows what is important because they never finished the series. What else? Oh, Shayna's pregnant. Not gonna draw that out. She tells her sister at a restaurant and the ex-wife overhears. She then goes to tell some man that we don't know who was on the other side that she found out that Shayna may be pregnant. Shayna is like, well, what if he doesn't feel the same way? What if he thinks I'm trying to trap him? So apparently she's planning on keeping the pregnancy, but she doesn't know how to tell him. But she knows that she must do it. So she invites him to dinner, tells him that she has something to talk to him about. But before she can see him that night, he is knocked out in the parking lot with someone wielding a syringe. He's kidnapped. You want to guess by who? Because it's not like we've had any explicit people to consider this far, except maybe the wife that I mentioned 3 seconds ago. Do you remember who that is? Because I didn't. It was the dude that was in that one scene that recommended them getting Shayna Bradford to work for them. Shayna Bradford, the woman whose job it is to investigate the business. Shayna Bradford, whose job it is to investigate the business. He said, why don't you bring her in? And mind you, this movie does not ignore that information. They have him do his old villain arc. Apparently he was working with the ex-wife. That's who she called or whatever. And he was working with other people and yada, yada, yada. Who cares? But essentially he's like, well, the only reason I had you hire Shayna is because I wanted to get on your good side to throw you off. There's no other way to do that. You ain't never taken somebody to brunch. You ain't never bought a watch. Like you're an idiot. And this is frustrating me. I don't know why it's frustrating me. As if any movie from PASSIONFLIX has ever been well written, but it's insulting. Anyway, he has Jace trapped there with some other dude. I don't even know who that is. I don't know what his significance is. He's been having an affair with his ex-wife. They were probably while they were married at the time too. Oh, and the baby she aborted apparently was his. Also, who cares? Because he's the guy that ex-wife told about Shayna's pregnancy, he's the one to drop the bomb that she's pregnant. I've never seen a movie do such a bad job to build up tension. I could not care less about anything that's happening on screen. Again, you don't understand. This movie's only an hour and 45 minutes. It took me like 6 hours to get through it because literally paint drying is more interesting to me than anything that was happening on screen. Even in the moments of like tension, where do we go? Where is he? He got kidnapped. Oh my God, where is he? It didn't make them act any different. The music, I don't think was much different. Who gives a f? We almost at the end of the movie, so I guess we're supposed to. He then threatens to shoot him, but they're able to get the police there just in time by following clues of his disappearance, the syringe. Well, actually, no, they were able to find him because he had his Find My Phone on or something like that. Yeah, no clues to put together, no puzzles. All they did was put on Find My Phone. And he was busted. So they let him go. He tells her that he doesn't mind that she's pregnant and he wants to live with her and raise their child. And he says, I love you for the first time. Bye. And essentially that's the end of the movie. Whatever job she did saved the company. So that's point one of two objectives taken off the plate. I guess they're going to save getting the father out of jail for the next movie that never existed. So I guess he's just going to stay there. Sorry, my boy. But yeah, that's the gist of the movie. I'm so sorry. I feel bad even making this video. This is kind of a waste of a movie, but I am upset that there were so many storylines set up that I'll never know the end to. Not that I care that much. There was also other story arcs that I didn't touch on at all, including but not limited to the deceased grandfather being in love with his housekeeper, Shayna's father falling in love with a woman at a fruit market, which took up a shocking amount of time, by the way. I just gave you the spark notes for a test that you'll never have. But the last movie ended abruptly with a bunch of drama, some betrayal from a guy that worked at the company, and it ended with Jace getting kidnapped and saved, and Shayna being pregnant and him proposing to her. So that's how that movie ended. This movie follows the middle child, Caden, who in the first movie, there was some allusion to him having a relationship with this girl named Shiloh. Now, in the last movie, they just called her like his best friend. So I assume she was a childhood friend. But according to this movie, there was a whole bunch of other shit that happened not even when they were kids, that happened 4 years ago. And I think it would have been a good idea to tell us that, but they're telling us now. So, and we're gonna go into his love story with that. There's also espionage. There's like 4 million different PIs for some reason. Everybody, like whenever they need to progress a story along, they're like, let's get a private investigator. Lazy writing. Thank you, PASSIONFLIX. But luckily, this movie is a cool 87 minutes, so it's not going to take that long to talk about all the crap, even though it is very convoluted and stupid like the first movie. So without further ado, let's talk about A Man's Promise 2024, The Grangers, Part 2. If you don't remember Caden, because you wouldn't, because I didn't, remember Caden? Caden is the middle child, and his thing was that he played saxophone and was very successful in a band, in like a jazz band, doing that before he had to come back to the company when it was going under in the last movie. And if you recall, he had a very complicated, sassy relationship with his bass player, one of the people in the band, which they referenced very briefly in the first movie when he said she was off key.
Egged that woman on. She was practically stripping for you.
Is that why you were off key?
Y'all remember that? That was very funny. I was like, ooh. Now, that complicated relationship will be referenced a bit more in this, so I'll just let you know right now that the girl, the bass player, her name was Rita, and they used to f around, and then he was like, you taking this too seriously, and he had to let her go, which sounds like retaliation, which is illegal. If you have the ability to fire her, you shouldn't have been f***ing her. But I digress. This is a romance. Don't look too closely. So though you need to know about Rita, not a whole lot, because this movie is gonna be about him and the girl that he loved, Shiloh. Like at the beginning of this movie, they're not on good terms. And it's kind of hard to understand why. In the first movie, we were under the impression that they weren't on good terms because they just fell off when his father went to jail for murder, and her parents told her to stay away from them because they're obviously dangerous and unkempt if getting murder charges. So he thought that she had just turned her back on him. But apparently there's more to the story that we are told very abruptly with expository dialogue as everything happens in PASSIONFLIX. So that's the like foundation of this relationship going into this movie. They don't like each other. They got bad blood, and it's her dad's fault, supposedly. But her dad has passed away, and so now we have to consider like, what will they choose to do now that they can make their own choices? Okay, so speaking of Shiloh, the first scene with her is her at dinner with her brother Cedric. And she got boho braids, which, ooh, I want some boho braids so bad. But unfortunately, the reason I haven't gotten them yet is because I have too much faith in myself and I feel like I can do it myself. I probably shouldn't feel that way because I don't think I can do it myself. But my pride won't let me go to somebody else until I do it myself. But she has boho braids and she's there talking to her brother Cedric. Now, I didn't remember this. It's a really throwaway thing in the first movie, but Cedric is a doctor. Not only is he a doctor, he is the doctor that was looking over the Granger's granddad when he had his heart attack and was there when he died. This will be vaguely relevant. And Shiloh is really excited because she is going to be taking the next step in her career. She's going to be opening a wine bar. But at the company later, Shiloh and Cedric's mom comes to the Granger company. Now, the Granger company don't like the mom either because she did nothing to stop the father from tearing them away from the Granger brothers, because Cedric was also friends with them as well. So he didn't want either of them hanging out with him. But she has come there to apologize for all the problems that her deceased husband had put them through. This is where she starts to drop a lot of expository dialogue about, quote, 4 years ago. Okay, because again, as we knew it, they were childhood friends and stopped being friends 15 years ago when the mama was murdered and the daddy went to jail. So we're like, what are you talking about 4 years ago? So apparently they had had a whole relationship, Caden and Shiloh, and they were engaged. They were looking to get married. Her father, Shiloh's father, found out, forbade her from going. Shiloh and Caden ended up breaking up because he found pictures of her on the beach with another man. So mom is here like, that was not a real photo. Those were altered by her deceased father so that you wouldn't marry her. She didn't leave you in Vegas where they were supposed to get married. She was actually in the hospital fighting for her life. Her father had found out about your engagement plans and they argued. She ran out into the street and got hit by a car. Was in the hospital fighting for her life and she lost the baby. That was a lot of information. This is like 5 minutes into the movie. And I'm like, this series is very much so just sitting there going, who? Like all the time for me. And I got added hit it real bad, so maybe that's just me, but I'm just sitting there like, who are we talking about? That's what happened. So now with this new understanding that she didn't cheat on him, that they were torn apart by her dead, deceased, no longer with us, passed on father, he's like, I want to start things over again because I was under the impression that she just didn't want me and cheated on me. So he ends up finding out where her new wine store is opening up, and he gives her a visit where he's like, I found out everything. I found out what your daddy did. I found out about the baby. I want to start over. And she's like, no, you hurt me so much. You had no faith in me. I had so much faith in you. No. But this is a romance movie, so her consent is not a factor in anything that happens. So he said, I ain't listening to your bullshit. We gonna be together. I love you. I'm gonna prove to you that I'm the nigga that you need to be with. I'm giving you a man's promise, which is the title of the movie. Now, though this movie is about Caden mostly, we do end up having several B plots, a lot of B plots actually. One of which is Jace and Shayna being engaged and possibly getting married. It's really stupid, so I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But that's what happens. They're engaged. She's expecting a baby in the spring. And there's little cute moments where he has to talk to her father and get his approval of their engagement, marriage, whatever they end up doing. But Shayna is important because, again, in the last movie, she was a PI type person. And her sister, Jules, is also a PI type person, ex-cop. And her father is also an ex-cop. So there's a whole family of investigators, right? Which is important when things start going awry. In jail is Shepard, the father that is in jail for the murder of the mama, and they don't believe that he actually murdered her. And while using one of the computers, he sees an incredibly large text, someone threatening him to make sure that his sons don't try to reopen his case and prove his innocence. Because of this, he said, let me get my lawyer, because obviously somebody is trying to bother my boys and bother me. So he gets his lawyer, who he's f***ing, by the way. It adds nothing to the story. There's no reason to do this. Maybe it's important in the future movies, but they should not be. 10 out of 10 would not recommend. But he's like, lawyer lady whom I am fucking, please hire some PI investigators to look after my boys without them knowing. Okay, so Dalton, we haven't talked about him a whole lot. He's a weirdo as well as everyone else in this movie. But if you recall in the last movie, he had a brief encounter with a mysterious woman that he met at a bar who didn't want him. And he's never met a woman that don't want him. And that just will not do. In this movie, he has decided to hire a PI, because that's what everyone does for some reason, to find her. Little does he know, but we as the audience do, that the woman that he's trying to find is actually Shayna's sister, Jules. But the more he goes into trying to find her, the more he thinks of it as like an affront to him that she's hard to find, this challenge or whatever, like, how dare you? Which, if this were not a movie, and even that it is a movie, does not ignore the fact that that's fucking weird and creepy. You met one time at a bar, she said, no, I'm not interested, and you hired a private investigator. You are a psycho. You are crazy and you are weird. Back to Shiloh. She's getting ready for her opening, and Caden is sending her flowers and, you know, doing the whole baby, baby, please type thing. Well, not even baby, baby, please. It's like, get over it. We're meant to be together. Get over it right now. Like I said, there's several B plots in this movie. And the only one that I actually like is about Shayna and Jules's father. He ends up dating a woman who was in the first movie. I do not remember whether or not I mentioned it at all, because it was kind of a throwaway storyline, but I actually like it here because it's actually the only part of this movie that I think is actually very cute. He's dating a woman named Mona who is blind. She hasn't always been blind. She was in an accident of some sort that resulted in her losing her sight. This is the first woman he's found himself able to love since his wife died of cancer a long time ago. It's really nice seeing him love again. I think that's very cute. And there's a lot of him saying I want to be there for you. I want to experience things with you, and I'll be your eyes if you need me. And it's very, very cute. And I'm like, oh, all the feelings, all the emotions. He's like, I'm a gentleman. I will wait for you. If we travel somewhere, we can have different rooms. I just want to be with you. It's very, very cute. And she seems to be a little apprehensive, not because she doesn't love him and care about him, but she has a lot of fears about leaving her comfort zone since she's created a very cocooned type life around her ailment, so it's resulted in her not feeling comfortable to really explore and go places because it's out of her comfort zone. Whereas he's saying like, no, I want us to still experience these things together and I will help you. And I think it's very cute. Time for Shiloh's opening of her wine bar. Apparently she had no say in who can come because there was a hell of people there that theoretically she wouldn't want to be there. One of which was Caden Granger. But there's also a few other people as well. Her mother, who she has a strained relationship with. Some family called the Greens, who seem to be prominent and they come up periodically. The parents of the Greens family once worked at Granger Aeronautics, but were fired for mysterious reasons. That was many years ago, and theoretically they've gotten over it because they have money and prestige outside of the Granger company. But their son, Ivan, comes to the event. He's running for mayor and he seems to have like a cold energy towards Caden. What's going on there? And then there's these messy white people named the Owens who Shiloh overhears talking about how the Granger's dad is in jail for murdering their mama. And they heard on the block that it was because she was cheating on him and it was a crime of passion. At first I thought Shiloh was overhearing this, but they really go to her and say, you used to be friends with them. You think he killed her?
Shiloh, you knew the Grangers. Do you believe Shepard could kill his wife?
You think he the type of to kill her? You think he a murderer? And she says, well, I was young during the trial. I don't know, but I've always heard that it was the other way around, that the father was having an affair. But interesting that you seem to have that information. Reminder to clarify things. In the first movie, we found out information that the deceased mom was cheating on the daddy, and the daddy took the fall for it because he didn't want everybody to know that about her. So we'll learn more about specifics about that in this movie. Talk about going out bad. You going to a jail for a dead person that cheated on you? But he said, I didn't want to ruin my kid's life, didn't want them to feel differently about their mom. But lo and behold, here they are 35 and they have a lot of things to find out about. After the party, Caden sticks around because he doesn't know what boundaries are. And he asks Shiloh if she has a history with Ivan Green, so the mayor, the guy trying to run for mayor. And she says, no, why do you think so? And he was like, because he had a big attitude, so I figured that he had some feelings for you because that's what makes sense for me. And she said, no, not that it's any of your business, but no, I don't have anything with him. This continues on with him going, baby, please forgive me for the wrongs that I did. I didn't know, but not in a pleading way, in a like, you will forgive me. Stop all this moping around that you're doing. Get over it. You and your silly emotions. Like, come on, I'll give you your time. So he leaves out of the place after like encroaching on her physical boundaries, and he immediately almost gets ran over by a car. But he's saved mysteriously by some real cute dark-skinned dude named Stryker. Stryker. And Shiloh, now faced with the very possible reality that he could have died, is like, oh no. And she starts like making out with him in the... Personally, as a watcher and a conspiracy theorist, I was like, did he orchestrate that? Because she ended up fucking him that night. She's like, oh yeah, I was trying to hold my little grudges that are very reasonable. We got R&B music to play and genitalias to bump, which they do. And the R&B music ain't bad. And they do it all over, in the shower, in the bed, against the wall. Good for y'all. Back to dad in prison, the lawyer whom he is f***ing. She tells him that Caden was nearly ran over, but the PI that she had tracking him was protecting him. Then back with the Grangers, Shayna and Shiloh. If I remember correctly, that's everybody. Shayna was like, do you think someone was trying to hurt you? I mean, considering everything that happened with Jace just a few months ago, it does seem like y'all got some enemies. He's like, I don't think so. Dalton then goes into how there's been some suspicious activity at the office with some girl named Brandy. Now, the reason I had to look down, one, is because there's so many names, but two, we never see Brandy. PASSIONFLIX don't do B-roll. they just put niggas in front of you and they talk a lot. Me! He's like, Brandy would come up into my office after hours so much that I was starting to get suspicious, so I had some security people put cameras in my office, and she's like just looking around a lot and taking pictures. I don't like that. So they're like, okay, let's look into that. Let's consider all options, whatever. Jace is like, after everything with me, and now he could have possibly been targeted in an accident type thing, I want to hire Shayna's sister, Jules, who was also a PI, if you remember, to look into everything. Speaking of Jules, who runs a PI firm, Dalton is really excited because he found information about the mysterious woman from the bar. His PI is like, oh, well, it wasn't that hard to find her, especially because I have to know people in my business. The girl you're looking for is a PI as well. But now that he's found her, he's really excited to, quote, teach her a lesson, which sounds like murder, yeah? Which sounds like violence, but okay, cool. Like, weird, but it's supposed to be funny because it's a movie, but he definitely needs to be on somebody's list. Brandy, the woman that we've never met, never seen, only knew that she was doing something suspicious. Well, she just wound up, again, off screen, dead. Parent Sue of side. She left a note to her parents and how much she loved her sister, which is confusing to Dalton because he knows for some reason that she didn't have a sister. I don't know why you know that much of her business, considering she just worked there. Back to Jules and Dalton. He's found her, so he goes into her office. She's been recast, by the way, and it was very confusing because they look nothing alike. So I was like, is this the sister? Yes, it's Shayna's sister. And again, somehow, instead of this being a action news at 11 story of murder and obsession, he's like, found you. He's like, now that I found you, you got to find me, but I'm gonna make it easy for you. This is where we're going to dinner tonight. And I'm like, ugh, nothing is scarier than the romantic genre, like at all. Y'all are frightening. Back to Shiloh and her brother Cedric. After the car incident with Caden, he doesn't seem to be a fan of the Grangers, which he was kind of neutral about prior to this, or at least seemed to be neutral about them prior to this. He's like, he staged a car thing to get pussy from you, which I know sounds crazy, but no less crazier than anything else that happens in this movie. And again, I too thought about it. If we're gonna do dumb shit, do it. But she's like, have you been hanging out with the Greens? Because I saw you talking to them at my wine party, and I've never known you to be particularly close to them. They don't like the Grangers, so what's up with that? And then he just leaves, not at all suspiciously. He's like, and goes. Jules goes to meet up with Dalton at the place that he wanted to meet up, but she gets real dressed up, get her titties to her throat, and she's like, I'm just here to let you know that I'm not interested. You should just forget you found me and leave me alone. And he's like, you came all the way down here, got dressed up, put your makeup on, did your hair, put your titties in your throat to say that? And she's like, yes, and stop looking for me. And he's like, okay, I'll stop looking for you. And then she leaves. Later, Jules comes over to help Jace and Shayna look into the guy who may have tried to kill Caden, right? Does he have any enemies? Yada, yada. There's a few people that may have an issue with the Grangers at large. The Greens, apparently the parents used to work for the company, but the reason why they got fired was actually because the husband was cheating with the dead mama. And then he was fired when they found out. Sounds like a lawsuit somewhere, but okay. The night of the car thing, they were actually on a cruise, and there's evidence of them being off on the cruise, so at least they didn't physically do it. Shiloh brings up about the Owens talking about how the mom was having an affair. So that means that there was more people than they're aware of that knew she was f***ing other dudes. And then Caden brings up Rita, the bandmate that we saw for 3 seconds who was off key in the first movie. He says that she still got a problem with me because we used to f***, and then I didn't want to f*** her no more. She got real possessive, and then I had my manager Grover fire her. Again, that also sounds like something suable there. But anyway, so they're gonna look into various people, including Rita, including the Greens, everybody, to see what's going on. Now, of the brothers, the only person that doesn't know about the affair supposedly is Dalton. So they sit him down and tell him about mom cheating on dad. And he's like, I already knew that. I caught her f***ing another dude before, and she came in my room and said, don't tell nobody. And they were like, wow, you caught her with Mr. Green? And he says, no. I caught her with somebody else. She was f***ing two niggas outside of her marriage, and the man she was married with after she died went to jail for her. Kind of pussy you got. We're back to Shayna's dad and Mona in New York. This is, again, a throwaway thing, but it's very wholesome and very cute. They went to shows, and he like described things for her and yada, yada, yada. And they have their separate rooms, and he says, I love you, which apparently he's been doing a lot, but she's always felt a little uncomfortable reciprocating it. So later in the night, she comes to him and she's like, I just want to tell you I love you. And I never thought I would say that because like I didn't think that was possible for me. And then they kiss and then they make love. And it was very cute. I was like, oh. Shiloh and Caden go away to Vegas, running away together like they were supposed to do all those years ago. And while there, Grover, Caden's manager, goes up to Shiloh and is like, hey, I need to show you a surprise. And he takes her to this rented out restaurant where Caden is playing the saxophone, and then he proposes to her and she says yes. And apparently they elope in Vegas off screen again. They just don't want to spend any budget. And I get it, because ain't nobody watching this shit but me. Back home, and this is when Dalton realizes that the woman that he's been stalking for the last few months via PI is actually his sister-in-law, essentially. He's making it sound like it's a him problem. Like, oh no, I gotta deal with this. But like, you the weird one. I'm concerned for her. Like she's stuck with your ass in some degree or another for the rest of her life because her sister is about to marry this weirdo and you're his brother. He's really annoyed and like, I don't want to even look at her because he got rejected, and he leaves out and she's like, whatever. She's like, I'm a PI and I'm here for PI reasons. So did you know that Caden, your manager, he has reasons to have it out for you? And he's like, what are you talking about? Yeah, I knew he wasn't like thrilled when I had to pull back on music to take care of the company, but he understood that. And she's like, he has gambling debts. A lot of them. I would have gave him the money. Why would he try to kill me? She was like, I guess you don't know the $1 million life insurance policy that he has out on you. I'm no expert. I don't know how most insurance works, honestly, but I'm pretty sure you can't just sign up a random person for an insurance policy. I'm pretty sure you can't just sign up some guy you know for an insurance policy, especially a life insurance policy. Don't you have to be married or like related in some way? You can't just be like, yeah, this dude I know, take a hit out on him for $1 million. You know what I mean? But after time, Jewel is able to confirm that the suspicions he had around Rita don't fit, but there's evidence that Grover had rented a car for that area, the same type of car that had nearly run him over. They also find out that he was embezzling from him to pay his gambling debts. Embezzle? Girl, embezzle. Not your manager, the guy that you trust, being the one to try to take you out. Caden goes to Grover's office and he confronts him. He's like, you take a hit out on me, essentially. You do a life insurance policy on me. You got gambling debt. I know you've been embezzling to pay for your gambling. He's like, what are you talking about? But eventually he's like, well, I had to do what I had to do. He essentially confesses, right? And Caden's like, well, I'm sure the police want to hear this because I recorded it. And he was like, that don't matter, bitch. We live in a 2-party consent state. He was like, good thing I bought the police. And here comes the police who come in and take Grover away, and that's it. They don't fight. They don't even really yell that much. They get a little impassioned. That's it. Which is crazy, because I ain't never seen a movie end so anticlimactically, I don't think, ever. At least in the first movie, he was getting kidnapped and shot and like things were happening. It was broad daylight. It wasn't even dark outside. He came in to his office and said, you know you be embezzling, right? He's like, yeah, I do be embezzling. And then they took his ass off calmly. He didn't punch nobody. Ain't shit happened. I was like, could have been a letter. You didn't have to film any of this. God. The movie ends with Shiloh's brother, Cedric, in a dark alley, and a bitch comes out dressed in a Sith cloak looking like evil Kermit. I know what you did today, granddaddy. You killed him. He would have survived that heart attack. And if you don't want people to know, make sure they don't reopen the case on the Granger dude who's in jail. Make sure nobody tries to find his innocence. And that's the end of the movie. Completely a waste of time. It was awful and I hated it. Okay. Now it's time for the last movie, the culmination of all the love stories of the Granger brothers. And today we're talking about the youngest brother, Dalton. This one, as you may have noted from the last movie, is the culmination, I've said that word like 4 times already, culmination of the enemies to lovers arc that he was having with his sister-in-law, Jules. Jules, if you recall, is Shayna, Jace's wife's sister. She was recast in the last movie. She's the same woman in this movie. They have the same actress for 2 and 3. Prior to this, they had been trying to ignore their inexplicable attraction to each other poorly. It was honestly really dumb. Dumb as f***. Like, and I love a good enemies to lovers. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm better than that. quite the opposite. I'm trash. Man, is this a poorly executed one. I hated it. So the movie starts with Jace and Shayna getting married and Jules and Dalton being a part of their bridal and groom parties, and Dalton kind of looking her up and down at the altar. He's constantly stealing aroused and annoying glances at her. It's a lot of dumbass flirtation, quote unquote, and one-liners. But that doesn't change the fact that at this point, Dalton is still fixated on his quote unquote hatred of his sister-in-law, regardless of the fact that she is now, whether he likes it or not, inexplicable. No, that's not the word I'm looking for. Cannot be extracted. Why can't I remember words anymore? Fuck. Inextractable? Is that the word I'm looking for? She can't be taken out of his day-to-day life, or at least in the grand scheme, because she is now, for all intents and purposes, married into the family. And that is difficult because he hates her, but also because he wants to her. And honestly, calling her family in that context is very weird. Speaking of weird, I just said that they had this tension, right? That didn't really exist. They start making out for the first time at the 5-minute and 42 mark. Do you think they could have built it up a little more? It wasn't that well built in the last movie either, so maybe like some tension. Nope. The setup is that, if you recall, Jules is a private investigator and she starts tracking Dalton's house, noticing that someone is tracking him. And she tries to get into his home with any pretense that she can. So she's like, kiss me, pretend to kiss me, so that your trailer doesn't think anything is up. Okay, okay. I think this is a good example of the romance, not just in this movie or even in this series, but in PASSIONFLIX. It's so abrupt. And I actually saw a commercial for PASSIONFLIX because, whether I like it or not, I am subscribed to their YouTube channel to know what garbage is coming out. And they did a commercial that was like, it's not porn, it's passion. Okay, Miriam. But like, it really is definitely like 60-year-old housewife who just wants to get to the but doesn't want there to be actual genitalia. Otherwise, that makes her feel bad when she goes to church. Maybe a titty here or there, but anything beyond that is not of the Lord. Okay. But even despite that, most of the romance in this movie feels shoehorned in because the meat of the story is a very convoluted and very boring investigation of the case against their father, Shepard Granger, I believe is his name, company politics, legal shit. But it does feel as though PASSIONFLIX movies have a quota of how long you can go from scene to scene before somebody gets to f***ing. And there needs to be only like 1 or 2 songs that are actually halfway decent in the movie, only while f***ing. They don't really play music anywhere else, I've noticed. They end up confronting the guy that's tailing Dalton. And this is where we meet all the other people that have been tailing the Granger brothers, as well as that lawyer that Shepard Granger, the guy in jail, their father, has been f***ing, with whom he has been f***ing, or whatever I called her in the last movie. The one that hired men to follow them to protect them because they had been talking about trying to reopen the case for their father to prove his innocence in their mother's murder. So the guy that was trailing was one of those guys. We end up meeting the other people, one of which is Stryker, the one from Stryker, fine ass, and another dude who has a name. All I know him is the dude with the long hair, racially ambiguous dude with the long hair. Fine. Okay. He don't show up much, but I noticed you, baby. I saw you. So anyway, this lawyer starts to question about how another person that was looking into the trial originally, the murder trial, seemed to have done a really bad job, like suspiciously bad. And this lawyer thinks that it's because it was a lawyer that was recommended by the bad guy from the first movie, Vidal. Y'all remember Vidal? I don't, but you saw the other videos, so you remember. But the brothers are like, regardless of the fears that you may have that somebody is trying to come after us, it's about clearing his name. He did not murder our mother. For some reason, through this conversation, Jace immediately assumes that the lawyer and his father are in love. Wouldn't be my first thought. But okay, y'all don't think that's a problem? Okay. Dalton goes and visits dad in prison. And I believe this is the first time he's ever gone in because he always said that it made him feel bad. It's hard to see him like that. He goes in and tells dad, hey, we're not backing down. We're going to figure out how to get you out of jail. Then the movie starts to list off random fucking people again. This is a problem the PASSIONFLIX movies tend to have, but especially this one, because they love saying a bitch that we've never seen on screen, we don't know who they are, and they say, yeah, they used to work for us in a blah, 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 and it's very confusing because we've never met these people. They start talking about a dude who was looking into the case before and wound up dead. They say his name, I'm gonna call him Ronald. They think it's a good idea to go talk to Ronald's widow about the events that led to his death in a drunk driving accident. They want to know what information he had before he died, what was going on, and yeah, all that. Dalton brings up how he saw mom fucking another man. And honestly, how she was a really shitty mother and went to him and was like, hey, don't tell nobody. Keep this between us, you and me, big dog. And he feels guilty that he never told his father. And the father is like, well, you promised that you wouldn't. A promise is a promise.
A promise is a promise.
You mean like a vow is a vow?
Boo! Tomato!
I love mom, dad.
Nigga sucks. Next thing you know, we haven't had any sex. So Jules comes to Dalton's house with her titties up in her throat. And then we have to have oddly abrupt, again, an explicit innuendo where he puts a shirt on and it says, I lick. I think there's actually another PASSIONFLIX movie called Lick. And it was a poorly placed advertisement for that, but still bad. Anyway, let's talk about your mother's murder. Basically, I'm gonna start looking into your mom's murder as well, because if y'all are gonna be looking into it, then it puts my sister Shayna in danger. So you're not dragging her into this mess without me being there as well, essentially. Shayna has a party, which seems to be the original reasons for the titty dress, you know. And there, her and Jules talk about the housekeeper, Hannah, who was mentioned. Did I even mention her in the first movie? I don't even remember if I mentioned her in the first movie. But Hannah was the housekeeper of the dead grandfather from the first movie, right? Who was also having an affair with granddad. We already knew that in the first movie. That'd be wild if I actually didn't put that in. But okay, anywho. More sexual tension between Dalton and Jules when he comes to the party, because she's like, I'm upset that you wanted to f me and you only wanted to f me. And he's like, okay, well, let's have drinks then. Do you want to talk and then have sex? I'm playing hard to get for a PASSIONFLIX movie. We're a whole 15 minutes in and you haven't slapped these cheeks yet. She goes off to Miami for work. And for some reason, it's not terrifying that Dalton shows up in Miami for that work. Remember the stalking thing I talked about in the other videos? But this is hot for her, I guess. And they do end up in Miami. Something that she says she just wants to, you know, what happens in Miami stays in Miami. And I'm like, okay, bitch, this, like, you don't know what streaming service you're on. Other faceless bitch from the last movie, Brandy. I don't remember if I talked about her either because I thought it wouldn't matter. Oh no, I remember saying she died of suicide, right? And in the last movie, they were like, I don't think that's what actually happened, right? So they look into why her daddy was fired from the company. And apparently he assaulted a female employee when she wanted to end their affair. And an investigator would find the key that she had for Dalton's office in her purse. This is also where it comes up that dead mama also worked at the business, and she would use what is now Dalton's office to keep busy and keep her away from raging at Hannah, the housekeeper, who was her father-in-law, right? Yeah, okay. Meanwhile, apparently the housekeeper and dead mama had a bad relationship. We don't see it, but they say they had a bad relationship, and you can garner it's because Hannah knew that mama was cheating on her husband. Got it? Good. Okay. Shiloh, the second brother's wife from the second movie. Shiloh's brother and Caden, the second brother, make amends. Remember, they weren't cool with each other at the end of the last movie. And I'm like, y'all making amends. Didn't he kill your granddaddy? Well, I guess he don't know that yet, but that's what's alluded in the last movie. I peeped it. I saw. Whew. Okay, back to the faceless Brandy, dead Brandy. Dead Brandy, they get an IT guy to go through her computer, and they find that there was like secret software in there that was built to essentially filter and wipe programs completely clean if necessary. And this was put in there during the Y2K scare. It's like, oh, okay, we're getting into tech espionage. Are you confused? Imagine watching it. Dalton ends up getting along with his bodyguard that the lawyer lady had sent for him. And this For some reason, he feels the need to give him, Dalton, Jules's address. Hello? Why would you do that? And when he show up to her house, she's not upset. Well, not enough for me because they end up f***ing anyway. Bitch, how did you find my house? Oh no. Now, most of the rest of the movie is interviews. Interviews of who may know something and blah, blah, blah. And it got me thinking the whole time, damn, did no one do their job during that original trial? Because it seems like basic shit. Like talking to witnesses, people that might have an issue. Anyway, they go and interview the dead guy that I forgot what I named him already. Bernard, BB. They go to his widow to ask, you know, what was going on before the accident, after the accident. And basically she says, you know, they said that he died of a drunk driving accident, but he don't drink. She also said that someone came around asking for information about what he was looking into right before he died. And that person was Ivan Green. Now, Ivan Green, I did not remember who that was. Apparently, Ivan Green is the son of the Greens from the second movie who is running for mayor. You vaguely remember that? I vaguely remember that. So, also, reminder that the guy running for mayor's father is one of the dudes that slept with dead mama, had an affair with dead mama because she was more than one person. His name is Michael Green. But Dalton never saw her with Michael Green. He saw her with somebody else. So she was more than one person. Okay, so that wasn't her husband. So Jules is like, okay, I'm gonna go interview Michael Green. Instead, she is intercepted by Ivan, who is like, I'm not gonna let you, you know, go around harassing my parents, blah, 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 blah. So instead she asks, you know, Ivan, why were you snooping around those case files for that dead dude that was looking into the case? And he was like, if I recall correctly, he doesn't really answer that explicitly, but instead goes into why he don't like the Grangers, despite the Granger sons, despite them having nothing to do with the affair or anything. But so Jules goes and tells everybody else that Ivan Green was snooping for information about the case and was trying to intercept it. So then she says that he's a suspect because though he was supposed to be at court when dead mama got murdered, he did have an unusually lengthy recess for his case. Dalton, though, is too nervous about Jules getting involved, especially because that dude died, the one that was looking into things. So they have to f it out to get the nerves out. He does get really weird in the morning when she's still there. He's like, oh, I'm not used to women being there, you know, like in the morning in my house. Like people don't come over my house. And I'm like, okay. And then he gets weird about like whether or not she's on the pill. And I'm like, y'all 3 times now, at least. Y'all got late on that information. Y'all need to start asking questions before that. She's like, yeah, I'm on the pill. And then they get in the shower. Like literally a minute real time since last time they shit so close it might as well be a montage. Jules is like, okay, let me go interview Shiloh's side of the family because her mama and her brother didn't like the Grangers at one point. So she wants to find out what all that's about because Shiloh's mama was once friends with dead mama. They were once cool. So she's like, what happened there? So she's like, okay, I'm gonna go interview her. But before we can do that, we have to have Jace's ex-wife. Did y'all even remember that Jace had an ex-wife? Because I didn't. Jace's ex-wife comes in and she tries to extort them for information about the granddaddy and Hannah. Who cares, bitch? Is dead, and that ain't gonna do nothing. No stock prices that he somebody when they didn't even have an affair. Later, they even clarified both of their partners had died. This is not news, bitch. Especially not $1 million like she trying to extort them for. Lucky, it gets heard by the police already. Like, well, by one of the bodyguards. And she gets arrested for extortion immediately. We didn't need to have her back. She was there for that one scene. There was no precursor that made her important that I just edited out. That was it. We have not seen her since the first movie. She could have stayed gone, bitch. She was a loose end that we forgot about. We wouldn't have noticed that it wasn't tied up. Eventually, Jules and Dalton end up looking over some footage at Shiloh's opening for her wine bar. And they see a guy that Dalton recognizes as the dude that he saw his mama. That man's name is Vance Claiborne. Now, I don't know why he was at the party. I don't know why anybody invited him because if Shiloh didn't invite him, whatever. Anyway, Jules and Dalton again. I'm just saying this to let you know that anytime some story is happening, they gotta up, literally. So in the morning, they bring everybody together and they talk about Vance Claiborne and how that was the dude that they saw, or that Dalton saw. Caden says that he's also seen Vance Claiborne making out Shiloh's mama. This is news to Shiloh because she didn't know that her mama was cheating on her daddy, who is now dead. You is gonna spread cooties. Gross. Come to find out, Vance Claiborne is a dude that put a bid in to be the computer specialist of the Granger company during Y2K. So Shiloh and Jules go to talk to Shiloh's mama about Vance Claiborne. Like, what happened with that? Were you having an affair? And she's like, I mean, yeah, I dated him in college and our parents didn't want us together. We got engaged to other people, got married to other people, and then we reconnected and the feelings were still there, and you know, we got and you know, it wasn't the same as why dead mama started fucking him, because she was just fucking him for IT information, which there must be easier ways to do that, but okay. But the thing that kind of comes out of this is that Vance Claiborne is actually Shiloh's real daddy. Family tree about to be a reef. So her mother and now deceased mother-in-law were the same man who is now proven to be her daddy. I would look really closely into those timelines because admittedly, the first two brothers look a little different than the last one. They could have white daddies. You might have just accidentally married your half brother, bitch. But they don't inquire that at all. Not once. Like, oh my God. Jules meets with Vance Claiborne. He's like, I didn't know she was my baby. That's crazy. And he always thought that Hannah, the housekeeper, was the murderer because he heard dead mama and her having an argument before she died. So like, the next interview is Michael Green, the other dude that dead mama was sleeping with. That gets interrupted by Ivan, who's like, I'm tired of y'all putting my parents into shit. They ain't do nothing. And then, oh my God, I'm about to have a fucking headache. I'm gonna read verbatim what I wrote down. Ivan believes the guy who was killed in the drunk driving accident was killed because he found information about dead mama and Michael Green, his father, their affair. And dead granddaddy from the first movie was going to make it public to ruin Michael Green's reputation. But didn't y'all just say that the affair would make the company look bad? So why would you use it as leverage? Why would you let an employee of yours and your daughter-in-law be outed for fucking an employee at that time? Because he used to work for Granger. Michael Green used to work for Granger. Okay, I'm gonna just skip this. I realized I was about to say more words that are just not necessary. So they go and interview Hannah, who is like, no, I didn't kill your bitch ass mama, but I wanted to. I considered it. I even brought a gun, pointed it up at her. But, you know, I couldn't do it because that was y'all mama. And I was a pussy. So I didn't kill her, but I wish I had. She was a menace. And you know, before you know it, we're near the end of the movie, and eventually we got to find out who the murderer is, theoretically, right? And who'd have thought that it would just walk into the office pointing guns at them? Because two white people that I don't remember, old white people, and a bearded dude that I've never seen, come in wielding guns at Jules and Dalton. If I remember correctly, the two old people are the Owens from the last movie. Random one that was like, do you think your daddy was having an affair? Them messy bitches. It was them, and they said that she once worked with dead mama because they also run a computer company, but she got greedy. And the bearded dude, who we've never seen before, killed the random girl named Brandy for some reason. Old woman says that she killed mom and framed the dad. That is so weird for so many reasons. One is convoluted as shit, but also all this money and resources you have, and you had to pull the trigger yourself, bitch. Like, I heard a stand-up comment go like, Diddy wasn't under the car putting the bomb, and it was like, it's so weird. Like, bitch, you over here like, yeah, I shot her myself. It was mad personal. I wanted to see the life drain from her eyes. Like, anyway, Dalton rushes in to take the guns away, but not before confessing speedily that he loves Jules. And then, good thing, right then the police come in. What happened to the security guards that was looking after them? And the only motivation that we really get from crazy old bitch is like, I want it to be a star. Please, I'm a star! The police were sent in apparently by a secret informant who ends up being Shiloh's brother. And he says that the Owens came to him at what a serendipitous time when their granddaddy was already about to die. And they said, you should kill him. Hence what happened at the end of the last movie. And he said, they gave me an injection to kill him, but I didn't do it. And that's just the end of the conversation. He's like, I would never do that to you guys. And they just like, okay, good. The movie ends with a throwaway line about how Shayna and Jules's dad, the girlfriend he was dating, Mona, or wife now, she suddenly isn't blind anymore. It was the only good part of the show. And they don't show her the whole fucking movie. And now she's like gotten her sight back, and we don't see none of that shit. Good for her though, I guess. I don't know.
Will you marry me?
But
Just say yes.
And then the dad gets out of jail because now the old bitch is going to jail for it because she actually killed the mama. And then Ivan Green tries to say he always supported the Grangers and they make fun of him. And that's the end of the movie. They're all one happy family now. I can go die. Yeah, this was an absolute mess and I will never get the time back. And the only way I can make sense of that is to make a video of it. And maybe you can explain to me what this movie was. I say that like you're gonna watch it. You're not. Anyway. But yeah, I hope you don't mind this longer video and I will see you guys next time. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Follow me on Instagram and Bluesky, both of which are KennieJD. And I'm gonna go play D&D because I started playing D&D now. And I'm not very good at it. Not that you can be good at it per se, but I'm shy. So I'm getting my runner's legs, my baby legs. I'm crawling before I walk. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time.